For your consideration, Max presents Hacks. Starring Gene Smart and Hannah Einbinder, the new season continues to explore the ever-complicated and always hilarious relationship between Deborah Vance and Ava Daniels. Season 3 picks up a year later, with Deborah Vance's return to fame from the success of her stand-up special, while Ava pursues exciting opportunities in Los Angeles. Don't miss the series The Ringer calls the best comedy on TV. Eligible for Outstanding Comedy Series and all other categories.
John Wayne, Steve McQueen doing action, stunts by themselves, the big star. This is a great service to the audience. That's why I started thinking, if I can be an actor in the future again, I want to do everything by myself. That's why I started dancing, singing, martial arts, horseback riding. I made the menu for every day.
Welcome to In the Envelope, the Actors Podcast, where the biggest names in film, television, and theater help craft a complete guide to the creative life. I am your host, Backstage Senior Editor Vinnie Mancuso, and today I am talking to a true legend, the great Hiroyuki Sanada. Hiro's been acting since he was 5 years old, debuting on screen in the late 1960s as the son of his mentor, the iconic Sonny Chiba. He cut his teeth in the explosive Hong Kong action scene of the 1980s alongside Michelle Yeoh and Jackie Chan. He proved himself as a dramatic actor in his native Japan with films like Ring, and he finally broke out to American audiences in 2003 with The Last Samurai. You might remember he stole the show right away from Tom Cruise. From that point on, he's pretty much been one of the most reliably magnetic screen presences in Hollywood. From The Wolverine to Westworld, Avengers Endgame to John Wick Chapter 4. But still, after all this time, he's never quite had a project quite like Shogun. From FX, Justin Marks and Rachel Kondo's sprawling historical fiction series about a feudal lord navigating the political schemes of his 4 fellow regents on the eve of Japan's prosperous 255-year Edo period. Hiro plays that lord in the lead role, Yoshi Torinaga. It's an incredible performance and an incredible show. Check it out if you haven't. And it's also a role that comes with, shockingly for the first time in his career, a producer credit for Hiro. This is a wonderful chat, not only about Shogun and the role of Torinaga, but all the reasons why being a producer as well as an actor meant so much to Hiro after the long and winding road it took to arrive at this place. Let's get right into it. Here is Hiroyuki Sanada. Hiro, how are you doing? Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah, so far so good. I'm doing well.
Amazing. I'm so excited to talk to you because I think your career is incredible. It's not so often we get somebody who has such a varied career, long career, and such a consistently great career. I'm very excited to talk about where you came from, what you're doing now, Shogun, which I have to congratulate you on because that's also incredible. I think it had just ended recently. By the time this comes out, it'll ended about a month ago, but congratulations on Shogun as well. Incredible show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But before we get into all that, I do want to ask you something slightly unrelated to acting, and that is something that I saw you say a couple years ago about sunsets. You told, I believe, the New York Times how sunsets have sort of been healing to you since you were young, when you started acting. So I'm curious, when was the last time you really needed that sunset healing and you got it?
Mm-hmm. Even as a child actor, after shooting, sun goes down, and then in the location bus with the crew and cast all together, go back to the studio, and every time I see the sunset, finished today, another day, safely, and then I could calm down and relax. And also, after I started the action movie, after grown up, the child actor. Some after on stunts or fighting scenes, and then again, sunset calmed down to me. And then I felt I survived without accident. And then, so every time sunset healed me.
You made it. You made it to another day. Is that how you still feel, or has it kind of just become a routine?
Yeah, still, if I have a chance to see the sunset, 100%. I try to see, watch, and then take a photo or video for another memories. And when I started living in LA 20 years ago, I lived in Santa Monica by the ocean. So if I stay home, I could see sunset every day from my room. And at that time, I didn't have any manager here, agent here yet. And then I didn't know, can I survive here or not? And then every day, just a meeting, English training lesson, some classes. And then I have no idea, can I get the role here in the future? But, always every day after the meeting, hard schedule, lesson, and watching the ocean and the sunset again healed me. And then this ocean connect to Japan, my country. So if I cannot get anything here, I can anytime go back to my country. So that kind of feeling, yeah. Again, sunset healed me in LA, my first experience living here. So yeah, still now.
Yeah, I mean, every day you make it to another job, another day, another successful day, another tough day. As long as it's over, you can do another one.
Yeah, and luckily I survived.
You did mention, you started as a child actor. This was in the 60s. I did want to sort of touch on all the way back then. You made your film debut, I think, 1966 with a Game of Chance.
Yeah.
I'm curious, with the gift of hindsight, all this years later, what do you remember sort of thinking right before you sort of stepped in front of the camera for the first time? Like as an actor now, what do you remember about, I'm going to do this for the first time?
Actually, before start acting, I've done the modeling for the kids magazine, front page, 12 months. Every month, I was in front of the still camera as a child model. Then child actor school called my mom, and then, do you fancy doing acting for TV or movie? And then she asked me. Immediately, I said, yes. I really enjoyed the photo shooting in the studio every month. And then this time, okay, TV, movie. I don't know what kind of things I have to do, but I was so curious. And then I said, yes. Then I joined to the child actors school. And after half-year lesson, I got the audition. That was the Game of Chance. And then I remember the audition, 3 boys remained at the final. And then they picked me up. And then, maybe next month, went to the studio first time. So I didn't know much how big thing is that screen debut is, so I could relax. No, never nervous because I didn't know what's going on. So I loved shooting on set or even location as well, more than the school. It's a great experience as a kids. Writing stuff, camera, and then people yelling, da 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 da, and then action, and then do something, and then if I do well, they said, "Great job, good boy," or something, applauding. So, what a nice world to me. So, yeah, I still remember a few moments in the Game of Chance second movie. It's located on the snow country in Nagano, Niigata in Japan. And we've shot the location first, then went into the set. Then fake snow is there, and then salt, and then white cotton or something. And then after my father hit me, and then I start crying, and then go out from the house to the outside, and then rehearse, and then I just went out barefoot at the rehearsal. But somehow, yeah, the shooting, first time shooting, and then he hit me so hard, really hard. And I was like, I hate you, father, and then run away to the snow. And then finally, I grasped my shoes, then went out to the fake snow. So maybe that was my first ad lib.
Your first bit of improv. I love that.
Yeah.
You sort of mentioned that because hadn't really, this was your first kind of experience acting, that you felt relaxed because there was so much you didn't know. Did it almost was like the more you learned, the more you thought about it, or do you sort of use that to remain relaxed in front of the camera? Because you're very, I feel like when I think of you on screen, it's always a very dynamic, poised presence. It's a screen presence. Has that helped you stay comfortable in front of the camera? The fact that you sort of started from a place of like, I don't know, but I'll just do it.
Yeah, I'm since 5 years old, I'm acting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, very natural thing for me. On set with the costume on, in front of the camera, get the role, holding the role in me. So not real me.
Mm-hmm.
So just relaxing, and then as a character, be there. So this kind of interview or TV show, live show is more panicking every time, So if I have role, script, dialogue, and then if I get the emotion, I can easily to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So no role, just me in front of the camera is more nervous for me.
That's interesting. At this time, you sort of I don't know how it sort of happened concurrently, but you joined Japan Action Club, which was Sonny Chiba's sort of acting school, and he acted sort of as a mentor for you during that time. Is there any piece of performance advice, career advice, general advice that you got during that time that has stuck with you or really helped you sort of move forward past that?
Yeah, I started training when I was 13 years old. I started from Japanese traditional dance first, then joined to action club. But yeah, I've learned a lot. But from Mr. Sonny Chiba, big thing is kind of always be ambitious. Mm-hmm. And think about the 10 years, 20 years later, future, not next year, not as an idol or new face actors, think about the future. That was a great advice, one of. And then think about the world market in the future. Mm-hmm. So what to watch, what to read, so everything focus on to the long time future. So that's why I was focused on my 30s, 40s, even 20s. I was kind of idol action star or something, but always, no, this is not my goal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, think about the future and the world market, blah, blah, blah. So that's the most important thing for me. And then those were great advice for me, and then made it now.
I was going to say, here we are all these years later. I think that advice definitely stuck. Speaking of sort of, your ambitions at this early time, were there any actors that you were watching that you're like, oh, I want a career like that. Like I would love, just like actors that were acting at that time that you sort of thought, oh, that's a blueprint that I could follow. Or like, in the future, 20, 30 years down the line, 40 years down the line, I'd love to be doing stuff like that. Was there anyone in particular that served as that kind of inspiration?
Yeah, after I quit acting at once when I was 10 years old, I started watching movie at the theater
Hmm.
as an audience first time. Before that, I always watching my movie in the studio screening room.
Hmm.
So I never paid movie. The only my own movie watched. Then I started watching Hollywood movie, European movie in the theater. And oh my gosh, what a great world the movie is. Well, can I go back to the screen in the future? And then watching a lot of great performers. You know, I watched action movie, musical, and then Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire singing, dancing himself, big stars doing himself. And then John Wayne, Steve McQueen doing
Hmm.
action, stunts by themselves, the big star. This is a great service to the audience. That's why I started thinking, if I can be an actor in the future again, I want to do everything by myself. That's why I started dancing, singing, action, or martial arts, horseback riding. I made the menu for every day. So, yeah, those people gave me a dream and strength to, spend the time for hard training years and years. So, yeah, they inspired me a lot.
And you really, you did sort of do it all from the beginning. I am a big fan of Hong Kong action cinema, and
Yeah.
I recently watched Royal Warriors, one of my favorites. Which
Oh, with Michelle Yeoh.
Yes, absolutely, and it has one of
That's,
my favorite car chases of all time.
oh,
Um,
really?
I would love to know, when you think back to filming stuff like that, what sort of pops into your head, because that is a let's call it a physically challenging physically challenging type of role.
Yeah.
What do you think of?
Yeah. I've done two action movie in Hong Kong, and then that was my first international movie
Mm,
experience. And then fighting style also different from Japan.
mm,
So I had to learn a lot before start shooting. But they had a nice choreographer, stunt guys taught me Hong Kong style. And I thought it's a good chance to learn. So another kind of style as
mm.
an actor. So yeah, it was a great experience. And then, people speaking English on set, that was my first experience as well. And this is a big, you know, stepstone for me, I felt. So even hard schedule, fighting all day, well, sometimes a second unit, third unit, fourth unit, and then I had to go all around. And I couldn't go back to my hotel 3 full days. So I slept on set or in the car toward to next stage. So it was amazing, very hard experience. But even though it's gonna be a big milestone to me, so let's do it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
A lot of sunsets during that production, I assume.
I couldn't see sunset at that time.
As you sort of transition towards, less action oriented, more dramatic roles, where were you sort of, you mentioned you started acting just sort of because you wanted to, and then you started learning all these skills. But when you really started transitioning more towards, dramatic, less action oriented roles, where were you sort of pulling all your, technique and skills from? Basically, how did you sort of learn the acting part during your career, like all the other sort of physical surrounding skills, but where did your sort of acting knowledge most come from?
Maybe the onset is the best school,
Hmm.
and then watching others. And yeah, of course, I took the a class, acting class, at the same time as an action. And then also, all the skills, martial arts, or singing, dancing, they are all the one of my skills as an actor.
Mhm.
So I didn't want to be a just action star, So action is a part of acting. So, acting is most important. That's why script and the great director is important.
Mhm.
So after I break as an young action star, I try to focus on to get the good script and acting role, not only action. And yeah, especially when I was 24, people only needed me to do action.
Mhm.
But to me, it was a little frustrated as an actor. That's one of the role and then part of skills, but that's not my only field, I felt. So that's why I start choosing, more dramatic role without action, love story or comedy, at a musical. So that was my late 20s. I challenged to get the acting role more than action. And then I thought at that time, yeah, stop action for a while. And then after I get more good acting skills or without action, people watching my movie or TV, then I can do action again. Even if, the people give up to the action when 40s, 50s.
Mhm.
But for me, okay, now I can do both. After 40, I started thinking about that. So if the script or director need me to do action, I do. But not only that. So choosing a good project, script, acting role, that was my theme
Super.
after, 30, 40s.
For your awards consideration, Max presents the HBO original series True Detective Night Country. When the long winter night falls in Ennis, Alaska, the 8 men who operate the Salal Arctic Research Station vanish without a trace. To solve the case, detectives Liz Danvers, played by Jodie Foster, and Evangeline Navarro, played by Kaylee Reese, will have to confront the darkness they carry in themselves and dig into the haunted truths that lie buried beneath the eternal ice. Don't miss the series Rolling Stone calls thrilling and gripping. Eligible for Outstanding Limited Series and all other categories. Something you've said before is, a real game changer for you is playing the fool in King Lear, the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Yeah.
I'm very curious because I've seen you say that you were initially reluctant to take it because you hadn't you weren't fully 100% confident with your English yet. And learning any role is one thing, learning Shakespeare is another. So,
Yeah.
I'm curious about your I've watched a few clips and it's a really remarkable performance. I'm curious about your prep for that, your preparation. What was your sort of relationship to the text at the time and, rising to that challenge? What did that mean for you?
Oh, yeah, it was my biggest challenge in my life. When I've done Hamlet in London Barbican Theatre,
Mhm.
it was Japanese production. So all dialogue was in Japanese. And then, at that time, the leading actor of the King Lear, Nigel Hawthorne, and the producer, Thelma Holt, came to my dressing room after the Hamlet show. And then they asked me to do, full in King Lear in the Royal Shakespeare Company. And then my first word was, "Do you mean in English?" They just listened to my Japanese dialogues. They're asking me all in English, especially Shakespeare English. So I couldn't answer immediately because it's so scared. But after a few days, the producer told me that, why don't you challenge? Because you were an actor before you are Japanese, she said. Then I heard the gong in my head. Bing, okay. if I have chance and if they believe me, why don't I challenge? Then I started lesson. I had 5 coaches for English, normal conversation or theater experience specialist, and Shakespeare specialist, and assistant director there. So almost 5 coaches every week. And then I spent a few months to listen and memorize all the dialogues. But the very first day on stage in London, I have no memory for first 15 minutes. Somebody said to me, have fun. And I thought, how can I have fun? But, somehow I continue acting and then talking. And then I hear the laughing from the audience. Oh, wait a second. Are they laughing at my jokes as a fool? Oh, looks like going well. Oh, where am I? Oh, okay. Just keep continuing. And at the end, the curtain call, they approached me so big. So from the beginning of the show, I felt the tension. Who's that Asian guy? Those kind of things. Pressure for me. But at the end, I got approached. Oh my God. And then they're so welcomed. And what an experience, I thought. And also I learned, those mixing culture, make something new no one ever see is so difficult, but important and also interesting. At that time, I thought, okay, let's take international project like this, even for movie or TV. Then, I took the audition for The Last Samurai. If I have no experience in Shakespeare in London, I didn't take an audition for that kind of international project. So Shakespeare changed my life.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask about The Last Samurai because, as you mentioned, I think a large or, a significant amount of the American audience might have seen you for the first time in that. There's a very standout scene in that is that fight scene in the rain between you and Tom Cruise. It's an incredible introduction to, that movie as a whole is an incredible introduction to you as an actor. I'm always very interested in, when actors have sort of a signature scene or a big scene in their career, what they were thinking about right before they call action, when they're preparing for the scene. So when you think back to, preparing for this very physical, very dramatic scene with Tom Cruise, who at the time was biggest movie star in the world, in the rain, what are you thinking, right before they're like, okay, all the preparation's done, action, let's go do it?
For me, yes. And then discussed a lot with the choreographer, and sometimes westernized moving, but I had to adjust to look more Japanese style, authentic way. So I changed some choreograph or steps and then rehearsed with Tom. And then, so we prepared that before on set, long time. So on set, just have fun, just don't make him injured. So that was one of important mission, of course. Slippery mud ground and using wooden sword and not the short VFX sword. We used the, during the training, he saw my skill, so he allowed me to use wooden sword or sometimes metal sword. He believed me. So, my mission was no injured, make more exciting, authentic fighting in downpour. We spent 2 days for that fighting scene. Cold and slippery and hard to see, but we've done safely. And then after that, the producer Marshall came to me, and it was an art, he said. And then, oh my goodness, what a word! my tires gone.
You mentioned, I think this is a good transition point. You mentioned the need to adjust, the westernization of things, sort of just tweaking things to be more authentic, which is a big part of the joy of Shogun, is you're obviously a producer as well as an actor, and an emphasis was put on authenticity. I do want to sort of shift into Shogun before we discuss what was filmed. I heard that you had to film a scene in, I think it was like 2019, just so that FX could sort of maintain the rights to the novel.
Okay.
I'm curious, what the experience was like, signing on, shooting the scene, thinking it was going to go, and then, the feeling of it's not going to happen. What is that experience like, where the project looks like a green light, and then it takes another, 5 years for it to actually come to fruition?
Yeah, the beginning, my coworker, producer Andrew McDonald, he produced Danny Boyle's Sunshine,
Mm-hmm.
and then he called me to, ask me to play Toranaga role, and then I met FX people together. So that was 7, 8 years ago, and then we tried to make the script and then hire the crew and cast, but we couldn't make a perfect script on time. Just before start shooting, we stopped. Then after that, few years later, creator Justin and Rachel came into the project. And, Rachel is a Japanese American, and then they wanted to make this show authentic as much as possible. Then they asked me to do producing as well. And then, yeah, I was happy because this must be, authentic one. I consulted, many times about our culture for the movies, including the Last Samurai
Mm-hmm.
and 47 Ronin, Wolverine. Every time story about Japan, I consulted and then adjusted. But I started feeling the limit to say something just as an actor, hesitation and don't want to break their pride, the crews. So that's why all this time, if I will be a producer, we can make, more authentic. So that's why, yeah, I said yes. And then we hired the Japanese crew from Japan. Some of them I worked with 40 years, 30 years in Japanese movie and TV for the samurai drama. So we could hire Japanese samurai drama specialists for each department. So we had a team that was so helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
This 20 years, I've done all of those things alone, but I had a team this
Mm-hmm.
time. That's why, so much fun and easier. And then after prepare everything as a producer, in front of the camera as an actor, I could more relaxing and just focus on to my ordinary job,
Mm-hmm.
just enjoying the collaboration. So it was a good back and forth. It was a great balance to me. So I never felt tiring. Of course, I had a pressure for the responsibility of our culture, but more than that, I had fun, so
Mm-hmm.
much fun every day. So some kind of energy came into my body from somewhere. Uh, Maybe that's adrenaline or something, but totally fun.
Absolutely. A detail I would love to confirm with you that I think I read in another interview is that you were sort of so involved with switching between acting and producing that there's a scene where you're wearing a very large costume. You're wearing a very heavy costume, and they had to sort of bring in a stool or something so that you could do your scene and then go check every take, which is
Yeah.
dedication. What was that
So
process?
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I involved for the whole rehearsal and then give some advice for the actors or director. And yeah, sometimes checking the monitor with the full armor.
Hmm.
And then sometimes going to second unit back and forth with the costume. Or sometimes just checking the monitor in the trailer if I cannot go to set. Uh, yeah, it was fun. I couldn't do that until, Shogun before. So involving the creation deeply was so much fun. Yeah.
Did that also involve, were you involved a lot in the casting process? Because I'm curious, as we've talked a lot about the early parts of your career and you
Yeah.
started young. I'm curious about the emotions of sort of watching and working with and casting these young actors who, you know what it's like to be young and hungry.
Yeah.
What is these emotions like now?
Yeah. I involved for the, making a script,
Hmm.
and then discuss with Justin and then try to avoid the stereotypical Japanese movement or dialogue and cut off.
Hmm.
Then try to put the Japanese lenses into the script, not only through the blue eyes. So that's a big difference from 80s original one
Hmm.
or the novel. Yeah. And then after the stuffing, I chose the best person from each department from Japan and then bring to Vancouver. Then casting, Justin sent me some options. And then I told him my opinion and recommend somebody or some actor get the role for another role, but maybe he or she is better to this role or something. Think about that. And then, yeah, Justin agreed. Let's go. So my mission was, pick up best performance from them, even actors or crews. That was my mission. So I was like a second, you know,
Hmm.
beside the actors. If they have some question, answer. Then only for shooting, go to the monitor and checking everything. So yeah, when they done great performance and all the producers and directors said, yes, this is it. Then I'm like, yes, proud of them. And then so happy, like I feel like a parent.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, I was so happy more than people applaud my performance.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So what a great days I had.
I do want to ask about a specific moment from finale, which I think, when I mentioned before, your screen presence is it's very subtle. You're one of our better subtle actors working today. And there's a moment in the finale, episode 10, where Toranaga sort of releases his prized falcon, which I found very moving. It's a very moving, very silent moment. And I know that was the bird itself was very important to your character. So can you just tell me a little bit about filming a scene like that? Sort of
Yeah.
saying a lot without any words.
Mm-hmm. So that's Falcon was a female. So image overlapped Mariko Otoranaga.
Mm-hmm.
And then after she is gone, time has come to release this Falcon called Tetsuko as well. So goodbye ceremony. That was like a funeral of Mariko for him. And then overlapping, the Misa, the funeral sounds overlapping after that release the Falcon. So like Mariko's spirit flying to the heaven. That was my image and meaning. So Falcon was a very important item of this show. And especially Falcon hunting is a good training for armor. marching the shift, make a shift, and blah, 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 chasing something, make a strategy. So that's a good training. And then real model of Toranaga, real Shogun Ieyasu, loved falcon hunting.
Mhm.
So both, showing Toranaga's character and also release Mariko's soul to the heaven. So both important meanings included in that scene, I think.
It's just, in a very busy episode, I found that a really small, very beautiful moment.
Thank you.
I am curious. I don't know what conversations are like, but are you sort of preparing for a season 2? Or this sounds like it was a very, very rewarding experience for you. Whether it is official or not, is that sort of something you've thought about? What you'd like to do, where you'd like to go?
Yeah. Basically, we finished the novel
Mm-hmm.
in the season 1, and then I was on set just thinking about miniseries. This is it. But we have the real history and the models, and then we know what happened after that, after the novel. So, who knows? A lot of audience or fans wanting season 2. I know that voices. So let's see. What can we do?
Fingers crossed. I think there are a lot of voices calling for it. I do want to sort of, as we come to the end of our time here, try and wrap this up with a bow as much as I can. I've seen you mention one of your goals for Shogun is to sort of, be a bridge, for actors, young actors in Japan, particularly, sort of this world market idea you've had since you yourself were a young actor. So as the door sort of gets wider and wider for young actors in Japan, what is your advice for young actors coming through it? The same way that Sonny Chiba gave you advice. What would your advice be?
Yeah, I think, English is very important, of course. That's a kind of license to, working here. That's important. Always telling to the young actors. And also, yes, just be yourself and believe yourself and never give up. That's the only thing I can say.
I love that. Hiro, this was truly a pleasure. Again, such a big fan of your work now, then, the future. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for being here to talk to us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Hope to see you next time.
All good. Yeah, we'll have to speak again. Hopefully for season 2. But hush hush on that for now. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, as always, to our brilliant producer, Jamie Muffett, and to the whole team at Backstage. Samantha Sherlock, Mark Stinson, Caitlin Watkins, and of course, Kasey Howe. Visit Backstage.com, and don't forget, you can subscribe to Backstage with code ENVELOPE at checkout for a free trial. 100% free, you simply cannot beat that. For more exclusive content, find us on Facebook and Twitter at In The Envelope, and subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Who should we interview next? Let us know. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time for another peek in the envelope.